Hey guys, it's Doc and Rachel with ATTV, and normally we do adventure food reviews, but today we're actually going to review our adventure. And where were we, Rachel?
We were with Tactical Response in Camden, Tennessee. We just had 2 days of their fighting rifle class, and it was awesome, wouldn't you say?
It was amazing, and working or going to take classes at Tactical Response is nothing particularly new. I've taken several of their classes before, and so has Rachel. We've both taken fighting pistol. This is my second time for fighting rifle, and I've taken a force on force class with them called The Fight before. And the one thing I noticed when we had a little bit of downtime, I started checking YouTube, and I didn't see a lot of reviews on Tactical Response, and it just amazed me because it is really, it's very exciting.
Awesome.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
I can't,
It's an amazing class, and it's a great opportunity that, everybody has the opportunity to do it, but not a lot of people make their way out there. Yeah.
There's people out there, much like myself, or I've always liked guns and, the idea of tactical stuff. And, I had dozens of different kinds of guns and pistols and rifles, but I never really shot them all that much. And I was fairly hesitant to go train when I had a friend of mine who's a police officer offer to go down with me and actually introduce me to the crew that teaches these classes. And the first time I went, quite honestly, I was hooked. It's an experience that I think everybody who owns guns, carries guns, or really just wants to learn tactical things, they should go do this.
The first time that I went, I was 12,
yeah.
And I had never shot a pistol before, and
well, actually, I asked them before we went. I said, should I show her how to shoot a pistol before?
Because you had already gone one time, hadn't you?
I'd gone a few months before we took you and Mom, and anyways, they're like, no, don't teach her anything because you'll just screw it up, and they were absolutely right, and then they taught you very well.
Yeah, and it's still held over. I don't shoot very often because I just don't have the time, but the fundamentals they teach you, it just hangs around in your brain, and it's something that you can always come back to, which is so nice.
So we thought we'd just sit down and kind of talk through the whole process, hopefully to encourage people to go and actually do it, because again, it's an education I think everybody who handles a weapon should have, and there's a lot more to it besides the safe handling of weapons. There's mindset, there's actually a lot of safety that's taught. And essentially, these are all, like Rachel said, they're fundamentals everybody should know about. Right. So, and then you can expand upon that. They have many classes there. They teach advanced rifle, advanced pistol. They teach contractor classes, night classes where you go around with flashlights, and several force on force classes. And probably one of the more important classes that I haven't taken yet is the first aid classes that, actual first aid where people get, life-threatening things that they teach you to take care of. So it's all awesome. So like I said, we're gonna talk through the process a little bit, and we have some notes that we need to refer to, so we're gonna be kind of blinking in and out here. So we'll be right back. Hey, we're back. So when anybody travels anywhere, they really want to know, some basic things about, first off, how do I get in contact with them to order the classes, and then also dining and food that's in the area.
Along with where you're going to stay.
Where you're going to stay.
The basic travel.
So essentially, as far as ordering the class, you just get on their website. I'll try and put up a link. I'm not that skilled at it, but we'll give it a shot. And pick the class that you want. Make sure it's during the scheduling that you fit into, and you can either order the class directly or you can there's a section where you can put money down, and then they'll contact you to make sure what class you want to do. And then, you know, pretty much it's all set up from that point, and then you just have to start the planning process of getting everything that you need.
Which we'll talk about in a bit too,
Right.
everything that you'll need to
But
take the class.
but I think it's really important to talk about lodging, because it's a small town. It doesn't have much as far as for hotels and stuff like that. So planning way in advance, because the hotel fills up very quickly, is pretty important. Now what we do, we stay at the Best Western there, the Best Western in Camden.
It's very nice.
It's very nice, and a lot of times, you know, you'll look online and it'll be full. But I've found that if you search around a little bit and you go to hotels. I've had very good luck with hotels.com. And if I don't have luck with them, you can actually call the hotel and tell them that you're going to take a class with tactical response, and sometimes they just magically come up with a room. So that's pretty cool.
And the staff there is so nice too.
And,
it's overall, it's just a great experience to stay there, and they make sure that you're super comfortable.
Right, and it's kind of an older hotel where the doors exit to the outside, which is really nice because you're carrying a lot of gear in and out of the room anyways, so you don't want to be lugging all the way down hallways and stuff like that.
Well, and you have to clean things at the end of the day anyways,
Right.
So it's nice that you can just drag all that in without having to go all the way through upstairs through hallways and that sort of thing.
And one of the other options for lodging there is actually there's what's called the team room, and when you take a class there, that is actually for all intents and purposes free. And there's certain rules that go there. I don't exactly remember the rules. I only stayed there once, but the reality is there's 2 rooms there with a bunch of bunk beds. And you team up with a bunch of other guys, and and it's, as far as camaraderie goes, I mean, there's a big living room area there, and everybody chats and kind of educates each other, and it's a pretty good setup if you don't mind that kind of lodging.
Yeah, it's, from what I've heard, it's definitely a good experience to get to know the other guys that are there
Right.
with you, but you lose the privacy that comes along with
Sure.
having your own space.
Right.
So there's positives and negatives with it.
And it just depends, if you're a single guy going, that's probably the
It's
thing for
great,
you.
yeah.
And if you're with a family, you probably want to go do the Best Western kind of thing. There are B&Bs around, and there's also
There's a few motels, I believe.
I think there's a few motels, but the other thing there is there's another pretty bare bones place that you can stay. I think it's called Rucks and Racks or something like that, and that's also a place that people can rent out and stay. So that's it for the lodging. Now, as far as food goes, there's not a tremendous amount of restaurants in the town, and there's actually more than we've tried, but we've got a few favorites that we go to for breakfast. Definitely Down Home.
Yeah.
And it's just great standard breakfast. There's your standard fast food places there. There's a Burger King, there's a Taco Bell, I think there's a Wendy's too, if I remember right.
What's your order at Down Home?
My order at Down Home?
Yes.
Anything with hash browns, because I love their hash browns. On Saturdays they have chocolate gravy, which is sort of weird.
It
but
tastes like pudding, honestly.
it does. It
It's
tastes
good.
like pudding. I guess it's a southern thing.
Yeah.
So, and then there's the Mexican restaurant.
Well, staying on breakfast, there's a
Oh.
couple other food options that are in town. There's Camden Donuts and Daylight Cafe, which
Okay.
is in town.
Okay.
And we haven't tried either of those, but the guys at
The instructors
Yes,
recommended the
those.
donut place.
and they said that those are really good.
Well, and the hotel has free breakfast
Yeah.
too. So, and then for lunch and supper, there's wings and things. I think
Wings and Things is really good.
It's
I like
really good.
Wings and
It's-
Things.
it's your
fried
standard-
chicken, and I think they have fried fish too. Is that right?
I think
I
so.
saw that.
I
But
think
fried
so.
chicken's their main
Yeah.
thing. It's super good.
And then the Mexican restaurant, which is really good. But you might want to hold off on going to the Mexican restaurant because a lot of times after class, the whole group will go to have supper, and a lot of times it's the Mexican place. So.
Well, but something you have to remember, you said lunch and dinner, like for these places, something you have to remember too is when you're taking these classes, most of the time you'll have lunch on the range, which we'll talk about later when we talk about what you need to bring for the class, but that's part of it too. And then another thing that we got to experience for this time is his name's Luther. And,
Luther, yeah.
And he lives actually at Birdsong Range, is that correct?
Correct.
And he invited everybody at the class to come to dinner.
Yeah, if you're lucky enough to get an invite to dinner with Luther, he's an amazing cook. He made us hamburgers and fries, and quite honestly, they're some of the best that I've ever had.
Definitely.
But we won't dwell on that. But definitely, if you get that invitation, absolutely take it.
And there's tons of good options. Well, I wouldn't say there's tons of good options in Camden, but everything that's there is good, and there's an option for everyone. And there's more things that are coming in as we come back. Like we noticed there was a new restaurant this time when we went.
Right. Yeah. So the restaurants kind of shuffle around too a little bit. So there's stuff to explore, but you know, and not that eating's going to be the biggest part of your stay, but it is an important thing, especially if you're trying to coerce your wife or your daughter to come along.
And they do tire you out when you're there, so it's good to fuel up with some good food and get ready for the next day, whatever it brings. Okay, so now we wanted to talk a bit about the company that is Tactical Response, the people who work for Tactical Response, like what we know about different people, and then also the class itself that we took, the fighting rifle class, like the basics of what it is.
So Tactical Response has been around since about 1996, and you know, James Yeager really doesn't need any introductions. You know, he's a world-class instructor, and just an all-around great guy, to be honest. He has amazing instructors that are with him. Some have been doing this for 20 years with James, and others are just starting. And like I said, all of my experiences with all the instructors have been great. You know, they positively reinforce you. No one, you kind of worry when you go into these tactical things that
they're going to be too intense.
It's going to be like the Marines, and they're going to yell at you and make you look like a fool, and that's completely not the way it is. You know, they're very helpful, and you've experienced this. Like even this week where they were really helping you with your stance with the rifle.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely was struggling for sure. I mean, I hadn't shot a rifle since at least a few years. And so it was really nice to be in a position where people were helping me, but like the instructors knew what to say, when to say it, and how to say it in a way that it wasn't too much, but you're still getting across all the information that you want to get across, and in the right tone. Like they were tough, but they weren't, like, I didn't feel like, I don't know the right word, like intimidated or like upset, like I felt like I was.
Well, and we all got our own levels of correction. Mine were more later in the day when I wasn't listening to you when we were doing teamwork, and it was all a super positive experience. And like I said, the instructors are amazing. You know, in the past, people have said, that if you're sensitive, you shouldn't go to Tactical Response.
I don't think that's true. No. They can tell who's more sensitive than others, and I think they either go easier or they go a bit harder on people, depending on different people. And each of the instructors are, completely their own person too, but they're all working towards a common goal of making people better shooters, and
and they're all great guys.
Definitely.
I like all of them, and I've been taught by pretty much all of them at one time or another. The class size varies, so that's one thing to keep in mind. Is sometimes if you go at where the weather's considered worse, you'll have a smaller class, and you'll have maybe a more intimate sort of experience. I mean, I've been there, when there were 4 people taking the class, and I got personally instructed by James. But also it was 30 degrees, it was pouring rain, and they don't not train because of the weather. So when you go, well, then we'll talk about that in the gear section. Be prepared for whatever type of weather it is that year, and be in Tennessee.
It can change.
It can change, and there's really no point where the weather's ever considered nice.
Yeah.
It's either hot, wet, or cold, or some combination of any of them.
And here's something else I wanted to add too, is that there's different levels of classes like we were talking about. And we recommend, and Tactical Response recommends, that the first class that you take is Fighting Pistol, because
Correct.
that's where you get all of the basic information that's going to be the foundation for the rest of the classes. I mean, all of them are foundational skills, but that's where you learn the basics and do some class time and learn the more important stuff. So those classes are a bit bigger than classes further down the line.
In the three base classes that they recommend that you take there initially, Fighting Pistol, Fighting Rifle, and then the Advanced Medical class. And I would add to that the Force on Force class, which is called the Fight.
But definitely the thing you need to take first, I would say, would be Fighting Pistol.
Period.
Because like some of the stuff that we were learning today and yesterday had to do with stuff we had previously learned at Fighting Pistol. And I mean, once you learn it, it's difficult to unlearn it. So you can take the classes
apart,
but
the particular thing with Fighting Pistol is there is a several hour lecture that talks about really the intimacies of carrying a gun and the mindset that goes with it, and how not only how to get into the fight, but also what happens after the fight, and how you should take care of yourself and how to avoid getting into the fight. And I'm not going to even pretend that I can express the information that they give you, but it is a absolute game changer. It's what drew me back to take more and more things of Tactical Response, because it's just that important.
Right. And so like the other classes we mentioned as base classes would be something that we suggest would come after that. So the most basic class would be Fighting Pistol, and then after that, what were the other classes you mentioned again?
Fighting Rifle, the Advanced Medical class, and then, like I said, the Fight. So we'll talk a little bit about equipment now, and primarily we're going to focus on, since we just finished the Fighting Rifle class, some of the equipment that we had to take for that, but also, a lot of this basic stuff applies to the other classes. So, you think, well, I need a gun, right? Tactical Response will also rent you a gun, because they have people who come in from out of country or they fly in and they don't want to bring a gun with them. So obviously that would be something that you want to bring. And 90% of people that take these classes, like when we did Fighting Rifle, everybody had an AR-15. Sometimes people bring an AK-47s, but before you bring whatever weapon of your choice, pick that thing up and swing it around a little bit, and realize that you're going to spend 8 hours a day handling that weapon.
Yeah.
And even for you found that an AR-15 rifle was too burdensome, so we switched her over to an AR-15 pistol with a brace, and she did much better with that.
And something to note too is that you aren't supposed to be preparing for a fight later in your life, so they would prefer that you're using a gun that you would be using in your life, so you're used to that specific gun. So they prefer that over something that is possibly different.
Right, and also for Fighting Rifle, and actually, before I get into this, there are lists that James has available for equipment that you should bring. So we're just kind of chatting through this, but the specific list will be available to you if you look for it. And you also will need a pistol. You know, you'll need a rig of some sort to carry magazines and to carry the pistol. A decent sling is very important.
Definitely, especially when you're moving it around all the time, like we were.
Right. And you know, something I would impress upon you is a good set of tactile gloves, thin gloves that you can actually feel with. And the important thing I think that gloves should have when you're taking a course is they should be a bright color, so the instructor can see where your finger's at, and he can correct you if you're doing something wrong with your finger and it's inside the trigger well or something. So, you know, I find that important. You know, it's up to you guys whether you would or not.
Do you have anything you would recommend specifically for different rigs or different?
You know, it's, you know, take whatever you want with you, and you know, this is the time to try it out. So, you know, and the same with the guns, same with magazines, stuff like that. This is definitely the time that you want to try out stuff to see if it works for you or not, and you can always modify it or ditch it if it doesn't work out. Mm-hmm. You know, the other important things to think about is, you know, you're going to need at least 10 magazines per person, and probably even 20 is a better number, and something to reload them pretty quickly, because you don't get a whole lot of time to reload unless it's a huge class and then they're having two groups take 2 turns.
Even then they still move pretty quick.
Right, and mark your magazines, put your name and then number each one. So if you get a bad magazine, you can just ditch it. You know, because you'll see that number coming back up, and you're like, this magazine keeps malfunctioning. I'm not going to use it anymore.
And your magazines kind of go all over the place when you're taking the course. You know where they're going, but you might get them mixed up with other people's.
If you want them to come back to you, put your name on them, or a piece of tape or some sort of identifier. Yeah. And you know, the one thing I think that's also important to talk about is actually, you know, Tennessee clay, and the, you know, and so since you train in any weather, it's important to realize that if you go out into the range and you get muddy, your clothes will never be the same again. So what I've invested in, you know, for me and for Rachel, is Frog Togs overalls, and so you keep perfectly dry, you stay pretty warm, and they're perfect, you know. And they're not expensive. It's like $60 for a set of the overalls, and they're awesome.
But definitely we recommend taking clothes you don't like very much.
Yes, particularly shoes.
Yeah, and I would recommend too, I personally dealt with this. You didn't get this very much,
right.
But hot bullet casings from the rifles were landing on me, so I had a tank top on the first day, and I decided to make this switch. I did not want to be hot. I was like, I'm not going to be sweaty and gross, but I knew it was going to happen anyways. I don't know what I was thinking. And I ended up switching to a long sleeve shirt, and that was like a lot better because they were still landing on me, like, don't get me wrong,
right.
But it was a slightly better feeling.
Well, and you know, again, to reiterate, the weather in Camden, Tennessee is never, I mean, we had an optimal weekend here, but that was rare. It's never been, the weather's never been nice when I've been in Camden before.
It's always been freezing cold when I've done
it. Well,
and
that's usually, we pick that on purpose because we would rather have freezing cold than unbearably hot or super wet. And so, you know, they always impress upon you to rehydrate every time you go back. And man, even today we were drinking water. We were just pouring the water down us, and you know, trying to stay well hydrated to keep your brain working.
We thought we brought enough water, and we ended up having to go get a case from the local Camden Walmart to supply how much water we were drinking. Right. Which it's better that you are drinking more, because you can tell the difference. Like the first day I wasn't drinking a ton of water, I was drinking enough, but not a ton. And you can tell the difference in how focused you are, like how much you're taking in, how well you're able to complete stuff.
We killed 2 cases of water in 2 days. So
yeah, so definitely bring water.
That's a 12-pack apiece, and I think we stayed maybe adequately hydrated. I'm feeling a little depleted. So
yeah, and then you were also going to talk about ammo.
Oh, ammunition, and you know, ammunition is what it is, and people say, well, you know, it's so expensive, I can't train. Well, there are, you know, while that's true, there are other options at Tactical Response for classes that you could take that don't require ammo. The fight uses simunition guns, which are supplied by Tactical Response, and then there's the first aid class, which I hate to call it first aid, it's immediate medical, and that doesn't require any bullets, and 2 of those are probably the more important classes, again, after you take fighting pistol, which is, you know, you just need to take that first.
And then something else that we had mentioned was that you eat lunch on the range. So talk a bit about what you think a perfect lunch on the range should look like for people who are planning for this.
Well, you know, not an MRE.
Yeah, we saw some people eating MREs.
And
there's no hot water source for starters.
Well, the big thing is you don't, you know, even with a flameless heater, you don't have time to heat your,
we had
because
half an hour.
you get a half hour. So,
yeah. And even at half an hour, you have to be back on the range ready to go.
Right. So something you can eat very quickly, cold. What we did, you know, and this is just us, is we had hummus and crackers. And just quick stuff that we could dip in an apple, you know, that kind of stuff. So
I saw another guy. I thought he had a really good idea. He was making wraps.
Oh, okay.
To eat. I thought that would be a good idea. There's lots of options, sandwiches.
Well, and there's a Walmart with a grocery in town, but you know, so while you're filling your cooler with water, also, you know, throw in a little bit of food, because you're going to need that energy to get you through the afternoon.
Well, and then us as well, we kept some sugary treats in case our sugar got a little depleted throughout the day.
Yeah, my chocolate melted though.
Yeah. Oh well.
So it went in the cooler as well.
Yeah.
So you're probably wondering how your first day will go for classes, and essentially, you know, the first day, for the basic stuff, you will meet at the main center, which is the old plumbing building by the Chevy dealership. You'll recognize it right away because it's got, you know, big letters "Fight" in the windows, so you know it's hard to miss. And first thing you'll do is you'll go sign waivers, and you'll settle up whatever bills you might have with Maryland and pay your range fees.
Everybody loves Maryland.
Yes, everybody loves Maryland. Maryland knows everything, and she is the computer that runs that business, I think.
Definitely, yeah.
And then so you'll have class. You'll meet, you know.
You meet in the building, and you get to meet your instructors.
Right. The instructors will introduce themselves. They'll talk about their backgrounds. They'll ask you to introduce yourself, what experiences you've had with training before, and whatever background you have. And then you may have lecture. You may have lecture for the morning. You may break for lunch. But generally, you get pretty quickly out to the range. And you know, certainly, you know, we all want to go to the range, and that's where the fun's at. But back to fighting pistol, the lecture sticks with you really,
so much.
Yeah, the lecture is the best part.
And they're always sure to cover all of the safety stuff before you even head out to the range, which is really nice. Nobody gets too excited.
Right, and safety is pushed throughout the whole thing, and they talk a lot about safety. They act a lot about safety, and they make sure that you are safe. So if you have any worries about, you know, this being a dangerous activity, well, inherently there is danger involved with it, but I've never seen anybody get hurt there, and they're really good about doing everything they can to avoid any injuries.
Well, and if there are any injuries, there's usually someone who could serve as a medic on site, and they make sure to make sure those people are known.
There's designated medics, and you know, there are designated vehicles to take people if they got injured, and there's designated medical equipment. So all that's laid out. once you get to the range, they'll help you. Like I said, if you need some help with your guns or getting into your rig, they will certainly be glad to help you with that. Most people are at least competent enough to get that together, and then there's a
I
very
had some assistance.
and then there's a very extensive. The beginning of each class is just a reminder of all the safety rules and exactly how to bring out your weapon and how to safely put away your weapon.
And how to make sure your muzzle doesn't cross anything. They were really adamant about that,
right?
Which was nice.
And we're really not going to talk a whole lot about the classes themselves because you should experience it.
Yeah.
And just take our word for it. It's absolutely worth it. And there is, like I said, you by the time the 2 days is up, you will be intimate with how that weapon functions, how to fix that weapon, and and also depending on the class, there's some teamwork. Where Rachel and I get to work together as a team. Mm-hmm. Normally at home we don't do together teamwork that well.
But yeah, I mean, all the classes are different, so it's definitely something you should go out and experience. We don't want to talk about it too much because, I mean, it's something you have to experience. We don't want to ruin it for you. But,
right. So we're just going to leave it at that.
Yeah, leave it there.
And then, the key things as far as getting along on the range is, be respectful to yourself, be respectful to other people, and be respectful to the range.
Well, and something we would recommend too is bring a trash bag.
Right.
And put your trash in it, so
Yes.
it's not floating around in your car.
Yeah, because you'll create a lot of trash. And that was another thing that, again, you'd probably find somewhere along the way, but I'll tell you right now, when you bring your ammunition, dump it out of the boxes. Just bring it in a bag and bring a reloader, because you're going to be going through it, and those boxes make lots of trash, which you don't want at the range.
And you can use any type of reloader you want, really, but what was the one we got to use today we had the pleasure of using?
I don't remember the name of it, but I've got video of it working, so I'll insert that right here. I think to reiterate, for us, we obviously we really enjoy Tactical Response. We are not sponsored in any way, just like all of our other products. We don't take payment from them. The one thing, when you go to Tactical Response, after that you're actually considered family. You're considered alumni, and the alumni do take care of each other.
Definitely.
I mean, all over the country. And it's an amazing brotherhood, sisterhood. I don't know what we're going to call it.
Family.
Family, yes. And so we recommend them absolutely. Do you have anything else to add with your experiences?
I mean, like we said, we're definitely not sponsored by them in any way. But if you're even considering going to one of these courses, or getting involved with Tactical Response at all, be sure to check out their website and see what they can say about themselves that we couldn't say about them in this short video trying to cover it.
And essentially, instead of buying another gun, take that money, spend it on training.
Invest it in yourself.
Invest it in yourself, because it is the best money that you will ever spend. So this is Doc and Rachel for ATTV, now doing adventure reviews. Have a great one.